11:30, murdered in an Uber. The search right now for the killer on a bicycle who shot a man inside his Uber. We're live in Brooklyn as a neighborhood deals with an alarming spike in crime.
Breaking news, a man is shot and killed right after getting into an Uber. Who police are looking for this morning?
Breaking news, an Uber passenger shot and killed while sitting in the back of an SUV in Brooklyn. Police are now searching for the suspect who opened the back door and shot that victim.
I heard 3 or 4 shots go off pretty rapidly.
The man's dead after being shot in the back seat of an Uber in Brooklyn. The shooter approached the car on a bicycle. The search is on for his killer.
Thank you. Breaking news in Brooklyn, where the search is on for the suspect who shot and killed a man inside an Uber. It happened on Bedford Avenue in Bed-Stuy late last night. Eyewitness News reporter Candace McCowan is live on the scene with the very latest for us. Candace, good morning to you.
Right now, just before 11:30 Charlene, good morning. Bedford Avenue is still closed down right now. I want to show you this car that we understand that the victim was sitting in when this all happened. Now, flowers belonging to the 26-year-old victim, they are still in the backseat of the Uber where he was sitting. Just after 11:30 last night, the Uber was on Bedford when a man on a bicycle pulled up next to the vehicle, opened the back door, and began arguing with the victim before pulling out a gun and shooting the victim in the neck and chest. The window of the car was shot out, and the victim, who's from Harlan, was rushed to Brooklyn Hospital where he died. Witnesses saying they heard at least 3 to 4 shots.
It's scary. I hope that there was a witness in maybe one of the businesses around here that saw who it was so that they can find him. It's rare that I hear gunshots or see it happen around here.
Well, the search for the gunman continues, and this murder comes as the 7-9 precinct reported an uptick in murders so far this year. They are up more than 29% over last year. We know that NYPD meeting with Brooklyn District Attorney as they try to prosecute more gun cases and try and lower the number of murders here in this precinct. Live here in Bed-Stuy this morning, Candace McCowan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Candace, thank you so much for
Following breaking news this morning in Brooklyn, police say somebody rode up to an Uber car, then shot and killed a man who had just gotten inside. The scene has been active for hours. Today, New York's Catherine Craig's on Bedford Avenue with the latest. Cat.
And what's happening here, Darlene, police officers are all over this area. You can see that Uber vehicle still right there on the street. That back door opened up. The man shot and killed was the Uber passenger. Police officers have closed off this street, and you see the Uber vehicle right there. The 26-year-old victim had been sitting in the back seat of that Uber. He had just been picked up at this location, Bedford Avenue near Green Avenue. A man on a bicycle came up to the Uber vehicle. He opened the back door, and apparently the two men said something to each other, and the man on the bicycle then shot the victim in the neck and chest. The gunman took off on the bike. This all happened around 11:30 last night, and this left people who live in this area in shock.
I mean, it's scary. I hope that there was a witness in maybe one of the businesses around here that saw who it was so that they can find him, and I'm curious to know why.
And paramedics rushed the victim to a hospital where tragically he was pronounced dead. And we're waiting to find out the circumstances that led to the shooting. Also, any details about the passenger. Was he coming from one of these late night eateries? Darlene, does he live in this neighborhood? Police are still investigating, and at this point, no one has yet been taken into custody. Reporting live, Catherine Craig, today in New York. We'll send it back to you, Darlene.
Two police searching for the person who shot and killed an Uber passenger in Brooklyn last night. Investigators say the shooter approached the car on a bike, spoke to the passenger briefly, and then opened fire. This happened around 11:30 on Bedford Avenue in Bedford-Stuyvesant. The victim was hit in the neck and chest and was pronounced dead at the hospital. The driver was not hurt. Police are investigating the deadly shooting of an Uber passenger in Brooklyn. Cops say the man was shot dead by someone who rode up to the car, had a brief conversation after arriving on a bike. Search is on after police say someone was shot and killed, an Uber passenger shot and killed in Brooklyn last night. Police say the shooter rode up to the car on a bicycle and had a brief conversation with the passenger before firing shots. The shooting happened around 11:30 last night, Bedford Avenue in Bedford-Stuyvesant. The victim died at the hospital. The driver was not hurt.
News as police hunt for the gunman on a bicycle who shot and killed an Uber rider in Brooklyn. The scene of the shooting still very active as police gather evidence. Eyewitness News reporter Candace McCowan live in Bed-Stuy with the very latest for us. Candace?
Well, Charlene, Bedford Avenue Avenue is still blocked off here at Green. They're rerouting traffic around, and you can see that car that was in. You can even see the shattered glass from those gunshots that is on the ground. Police trying to figure out what exactly led up to the gunshots here. Now, this was around 11:30 last night when a man on a bicycle pulled up next to the Uber on Bedford Avenue, opened the backseat door, and began arguing with the passenger before shooting him. The 26-year-old victim from Harlem was hit in the neck and chest and rushed to the hospital where he died. The shooter took off. Now, this all comes as police are facing an uptick in murders in this precinct. They're up 29% compared to last year this time.
Well, I know this area, it used to be crazy back in the day, but it has really calmed down a lot for a very long time, so you don't really see a lot of shootings out here like that. But to hear that like that and then the way it was taken to, that's just very, very disturbing.
Yeah, and police continue to search for that shooter. As for the victim, they have not released his name at this time. Live here in Bed-Stuy this morning, Candace McCowan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Following breaking news in Brooklyn, a man was shot and killed while sitting in an Uber last night on Bedford Avenue. We're told the gunman was on a bike. No arrests have been made.
The following breaking news this morning coming from Brooklyn. Police say someone rode up to an Uber car and shot and killed a man who had just gotten inside. The scene has been active for hours on 10 New York's Catherine Craig's on Bedford Avenue, with the very latest police looking for the suspect, but also looking for a motive here.
Right, they're trying to piece together, Michael, the circumstances of what led to this fatal shooting. Right in the middle of the street, you can see the Uber vehicle that is right there. The man who was shot and killed was the Uber passenger. Police officers are all over this area. They've closed off the street, and taking a look at this vehicle, you can see all of the officers who are here. This is a crime scene. The 26-year-old victim had been sitting in the backseat of an Uber. He had just been picked up at this location, Bedford Avenue, near Green Avenue. A man on a bicycle came up to the Uber. He opened the back door. The two men apparently said something to each other, and then the man on the bicycle shot the victim in the neck and chest. The gunman took off. This all happened around 11:30 last night, and people in the area heard the gunfire.
I heard 3 or 4 shots go off pretty rapidly, and I was about to take my dog for a walk and decided I'd stay inside for a few minutes and see what transpired. The police pulled up, and at least 2 ambulances. One ambulance brought a guy in a stretcher inside, and after a little while drove off.
And it was a chaotic scene, so many people in shock. Paramedics rushed the victim to a hospital where he was pronounced dead, and we're waiting to learn more information about the victim, Michael. Did he leave one of these late-night restaurants right here in this area, or did he live here? Again, the police investigation goes on. The search for the gunman continues. Reporting live, Catherine Craig, today in New York. We'll send it back to you, Michael.
All right, Cameron, see how busy it is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now to that breaking news. A man shot to death in the backseat of an Uber in Brooklyn. The killer was riding a bicycle. Eyewitness News reporter Candace McCowan is live in Bed-Stuy with the details for us. Candace?
Well, Shirley, this is definitely a disturbing story. If you come through this area, you'll notice that Bedford Avenue is blocked off here, and you can see that car where that victim was sitting when this happened. Followers belonging to the 26-year-old victim are still in the backseat of the Uber where he was sitting. We have video. Just after 11:30 last night, the Uber was on Bedford Avenue when a man on a bicycle pulled up next to the vehicle, opened the back door, and began arguing with the victim before pulling out a gun and shooting the victim in the neck and chest. The window of the car was shot out, and the victim, who's from Harlem, was rushed to Brooklyn Hospital where he died. Witnesses saying that they heard at least 3 to 4 shots.
It's scary. I hope that there was a witness in maybe one of the businesses around here that saw who it was so that they can find him. It's rare that I hear gunshots or see it happen around here.
So this morning, the search continues for the gunman. This murder comes as the 7-9 precinct, where we are reported an uptick in murders so far this year. They say that they're up more than 29% over last year. NYPD meeting with Brooklyn District Attorney, trying to see what they can do to prosecute more gun cases and hopefully reduce the number of homicides. Live here in Bed-Stuy this morning, Candace McCowan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
I heard 3 or 4 shots go off pretty rapidly.
A man is dead after being shot in the backseat of an Uber in Brooklyn. The shooter approached his car on a bicycle and had a brief conversation with the victim before opening fire. The search is on now for his killer. Police are searching for the bicyclist who shot and killed an Uber passenger last night in Brooklyn. Investigators say the shooter approached a car on a bike, spoke to the passenger briefly, and then opened fire. This happened at about 11:30 on Bedford Avenue in Bedford-Stuyvesant. The victim was hit in the neck and the chest and was pronounced dead at the hospital. He left a bouquet of flowers in the backseat of the car. Nearby residents say this reflects very poorly on the neighborhood.
I found that to be very disturbing, and then to hear someone that's riding up on the bike and just shooting someone in the car, that's just terrible for the neighborhood right now. I'm just glad that at the time there's no kids, anything like that out here, but that's still horrible for the area like this.
And the driver of the Uber was not hurt.
Well, one right now, breaking news out of Brooklyn. Police say a man was shot and killed in Bedford-Stuyvesant while sitting in the back seat of an Uber. It happened late last night along Bedford Avenue. Today, New York's Catherine Craig's at the scene with more on who police are looking for. Kat, good morning.
And Darlene, good morning to you. And that man who was fatally shot was the Uber passenger. A very active scene right now. You see police officers all over this area, their police vehicles flashing lights, and we're zooming into the Uber vehicle that is still here. Police officers have closed off this street. The 26-year-old victim had been sitting in the backseat of that Uber vehicle. He had just been picked up. This is the location where he told the Uber driver where to pick him up. This happened on Bedford Avenue near Green Avenue. All of a sudden, a man on a bicycle came up to the vehicle. He opened the back door. The passenger of the Uber and that man on the bicycle said something to each other, and then the man shot the victim in the neck and chest. The gunman took off. This all happened around 11:30 last night, and people in the area tell us they heard the gunfire.
I heard 3 or 4 shots go off pretty rapidly, and I was about to take my dog for a walk and decided I'd stay inside for a few minutes and see what transpired. The police pulled up, and at least 2 ambulances. One ambulance brought a guy in a stretcher inside, and after a little while drove off.
And paramedics rushed the victim up to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. Again, his age, 26 years old. At this point, Darlene, no one has been arrested. We just checked with the NYPD. They're still looking for the gunman, and the victim's identity has not yet been released. Reporting live, Catherine Craig, today in New York. We'll send it back to you, Darlene.
CBS 2's Jenna DeAngelis live at the scene in Bed-Stuy with more this morning. Jenna?
Well, sir, what's up with that?
Chris and Mary, a disturbing story with a lot of unanswered questions this morning, including who committed this senseless act and why. What we know from police is somebody rode a bike right up to this car, opened the back door, which is still wide open this morning, and killed the man inside. Flowers sit on the back seat of the Uber, the same place a 26-year-old man was sitting when he was shot last night. This morning, police could be seen swarming the car with a shattered back window, looking for any clues that will hopefully lead them to who shot and killed the passenger around 11:30 last night. It happened on Bedford Avenue near Green Avenue. Police say someone rode their bike right up to the Uber, opened the door, and shot the passenger inside in the neck and chest. The man was rushed to Brooklyn Hospital, but did not survive. It's extremely unsettling news for neighbors who say this could have been anyone.
That is just very, very disturbing. So that means anybody could just be sitting in Uber and someone just ride up, like, gives you the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
It's scary. I hope that there was a witness in maybe one of the businesses around here that saw who it was so that they can find him, and I'm curious to know why.
It's not clear if the victim was targeted. At this time, police are still looking for the shooter. And if we could bring you back live out here, you'll see those flowers. Such a sad scene sitting on the back seat of that car. We're also waiting to learn more about the driver of this Uber. Now, police have not released the name of this victim as they are still waiting to deliver the tragic news to the family. We are live in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. Jenna DeAngelis, CBS 2 News.
First breaking news, an Uber passenger shot and killed while sitting in the back of an SUV in Brooklyn. Police are now searching for the suspect who opened the back door and shot that victim.
CBS 2's Jenna DeAngelis live at the scene in Bed-Stuy this morning with more. Jenna?
An extremely disturbing story, Chris and Mary, and this morning police are still looking for who did this, who drove a bike right up to this car, opened the door and shot the passenger, and why. And if you look closely at that car, on the back seat, the same place the victim was, sits a bouquet of flowers.
That is just very, very disturbing.
It's an extremely unsettling sight for neighbors in this Bed-Stuy community, seeing a car with its back window blown out glass scattered on the street, and a massive police presence. Even harder to grasp, hearing someone rode a bike right up to this Uber, opened the door, then shot the passenger who was just trying to do what many people do, get a safe ride to their destination.
So that means anybody could just be sitting in an Uber and someone just ride up, like, gives you the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
The NYPD has the area of Bedford and Green Avenues taped off while searching the car involved with flashlights and the area for clues that will hopefully lead them to the shooter.
I heard 3 or 4 shots go off pretty rapidly, and I was about to take my dog for a walk and decided I'd stay inside for a few minutes and see what transpired.
A 911 call for shots fired around 11:30 last night led police here to find a 26-year-old man shot in the neck and chest. Neighbor Matthew Natale explains what he saw next.
The police pulled up, and at least 2 ambulances. One ambulance brought a guy in a stretcher inside, and after a little while drove off.
The victim was rushed to Brooklyn Hospital, but didn't make it. After seeing the aftermath of such a senseless act, witnesses left with many questions.
It's scary. I hope that there was a witness in maybe one of the businesses around here that saw who it was so that they can find him, and I'm curious to know why.
Police tell us they do not have a suspect or a motive at this time. A lot to still learn this morning, including more about the driver. Now, police have not released the name of the victim as they are still waiting to deliver this tragic news to the family. We are live in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Jenna DeAngelis, CBS 2 News.